it's not looking good at all. They are not looking good. And we just want to talk about the short-term and the long-term situation or solutions rather. Now you can join us across all social media platforms. Well, actually, specifically YouTube. So go right now to our YouTube page because we are streaming live there. And of course, if you have any question on the course of this conversation, the number to dial is 014489981. And then the WhatsApp messages go to 080944400981. Joining me via Zoom are my guests. First, the lady. I do have Udeme Isemin, and she is a clinical nutritionist. Hello, Udeme.
Hi, good morning. Good to be on
Hi.
your show. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Africa, wherever you're hearing these things from.
Yeah, good morning to the rest of the world. And then, of course, I'm also joined by Michael Sunbola. He's the founder and executive director of quite a number of organizations. We have Lagos Food Bank that is actually aimed at eradicating domestic hunger in Nigeria. And of course, he's also the founder of EduFood, which is an intervention for food insecure students. Also, he's a founder of Famine NG, which is seeking to protect or rather promote household famine amongst women for food security and sustainability. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm happy to join you. And
It's a
everybody
pleasure.
listening to this. Great.
Thank you so much. I am actually itching to get into it. So I'll start with you, Michael. You, like I mentioned, you are the founder of quite a number of initiatives, and all of them are centered around eradicating domestic hunger and just making people have food in their belly, at least in the short term. So I'm very intrigued about the concept of food bank. What is a food bank to start with, to somebody who has no idea what a food bank is? How do you define a food bank? What is it about?
Okay, thank you. Food bank essentially focuses on, warehousing food and having them redistributed to the most vulnerable members of the society. And most of the time, it operates as a non-profit. And, there are people who really have very low purchasing power, people who are really downtrodden, and we have to create that gap, bridging that gap. And what Food Bank does is just to provide that, that system where, food is kind of captured, warehoused, and then have them redistributed to those who are in need. And of course, there is need for food bank in every society. It has worked in other climes, of course, and it's currently working in Nigeria with the efforts of the Lagos Food Bank and other agencies, basically. But we need food bank because, of course, we need to bridge that gap. Food bank doesn't just, distribute food to those in need and all of that. There are other issues that food bank tackles, like issues of, malnutrition, curbing food waste. It's very, food bank is big on curbing food waste. There are food that are still very much edible, but some of these organizations really don't have issues with distributing them and all of that. So they rather trash them. So what Food Bank does is to capture, very edible food and then have them redistributed to most vulnerable members of the society. And also Food Bank helps solve the problem of poverty. Like what we are doing at the Lagos Food Bank, we have resilience program. We train women on how to start a backyard farm and then, earn some income, feed their family. Food Bank does job placements, marriage beneficiary skills with that of, that for organizations who need those menial skills like cleaning, driving, and all of that. So we marry their skills. And essentially, Food Bank is a concept that is very essential and very critical to the development of our food system. And we saw a whole lot of that during the pandemic. The concept of food banking became more glaring during the pandemic, and people started searching, does Nigeria have a food bank? And the United States of America leveraged on food bank, to serve their communities during the lockdown. And then that is the concept you're trying to bring up now to ensure that, okay, yes, let's integrate food banking system into our system as a relief, as an emergency relief, and also to curb some other very essential problems that are very critical and basic to the people.
That
so that's just
really
the concept
lovely,
of food bank,
actually, and very noble. But I'm very curious, how do you select your beneficiaries?
Okay, so this question people get to ask us a whole lot because it seems like, oh, everybody needs food, and
Yeah.
a number of people might fit into the category of those who are in need. And so for us at the Lagos Food Bank, we we try to look for those who are the most downtrodden, the most vulnerable, and we do this by profiling families. We go into some areas, the slums, some areas that, looking at the average, income of people living in that area, that they're actually below the $1, $2 benchmark. And then we profile them, we check what are they doing and all of that. We capture them into our database. We give them a voucher. So we don't just go into a community and say, oh, food has arrived, people start scrambling for food. No, we don't do that. We are deliberate about our beneficiaries. And if you look through our social media page, you'll see that there are women, mostly women, 98% women. And it's because we are deliberate about, not that men are not in need and all of that, but we just ensure that, okay, yes, the women can take the food home to feed their family. And then what we provide also caters for both the entire family, but we just ensure that the women come in, have the food collected, we give them our voucher, and then they are on our map. And we don't just do the one-time thing, we do it and then we have them on our map, essentially.
Okay, thank you so much for the work that you do. It's really lovely. Now, Udeme, while Michael was explaining, he mentioned the concept of malnutrition, and that's something very, very heartbreaking because according to UNICEF, Nigeria has the second highest burden of stunted children across the globe, not in Africa, across the globe, and that is very saddening. Now, we have millions of children who are suffering from acute malnutrition, and according to them, they say malnutrition is actually a direct cause or an underlying cause of about 45% of all deaths for children under the age of 5. I do not like that number. So first, let's even define to the regular listener what is a malnutrition, and then what are the causes?
Okay, malnutrition is a major problem, like a major beyond. Okay, it's a two-way thing. Malnutrition is when your body is not receiving as it should be the required optimal nutrition in the body to function, or you're getting too much, more than what your body actually needs. So it's we call it a double burden of malnutrition. So it's a two-way. There's the undernutrition and there is the overnutrition. So in the developing countries, it's the undernutrition that we have here. But in developed countries like the US and all of that, is the overnutrition that they suffer from. So it's when your body doesn't get enough of what it should get.
Okay.
Or is getting too much of what it actually needs. So here it's bothersome because when I want to talk about malnutrition, I want to talk about it holistically, like through our life cycle. We talk about how the butterfly emerges. So it's a cycle. It's nutrition through our life cycle. How do I mean? Every part of our body was once a nutrient consumed in food. Every part of our bodies, our brains, our lungs, where consumption comes in through blood. So at the point of pregnancy is where you start to deal with malnutrition. And not only with malnutrition when you have given birth, not when you are now 10 years, not when you're now 25, you want to start battling it. No, it starts from the womb. So a child who has adequate nutrition from the womb would most likely not have it later in life. And the most vulnerable, of course, are usually our women and our under 5 children. And everything that is taken in the first 1,000 days of every child's life, 1,000 days starts from when the child is 0 months in the womb till when the child is 2 years of life after birth. So it's a vicious circle, and that's why we find it so obvious in the society, because it's a continuous process. Once you miss it at the beginning, you almost won't correct it later on.
Wow.
Do you get?
Yeah, so we have far-reaching and long-term consequences to malnutrition.
Yes.
That doesn't sound good at all. Now, okay, let me come back to you, Michael. So the theme this year is our food, or rather our actions when it concerns food. First, what does it actually mean? according to the Food Agriculture Organization, it says that the food you choose and the way you consume it affects our health and that of our planet. What does that mean?
Okay. So, the FAO is really very big on this campaign on, food consumption, how that is connected to, climate change, our planet, and everything. So everything is interconnected. First is, what we eat. Like, it's what we take is very central to our health. And, there's this father of medicine that says something like, let thy food be thy health and let thy health be thy food, So invariably, there's an interconnection between what we consume and and our health. And because, there are kinds of food that, of course, not all food has all the nutrients we need. And, there's need for combination of food, and there are kinds of food that could actually lead to some very critical health issues, like type 2 diabetes, like even arthritis, and all kinds of this thing that, please, in my own short experience with the food bank and dealing with our in-house nutritionists, I've learned a whole lot on how this interconnection, affects, what we consume essentially affects our health, basically. So we have to be deliberate about them. We have to, anything taken in large proportion, kinds of junk food, taking anything, if abused, would have, so everything should be taken in moderation. And then how does this affect our planet? Of course, I'm sure at some point in our life, we've kind of wasted food. We've thrown food away. And this has consequences. It has a whole lot of consequence on our planet. Food thrown away causes, produces greenhouse gas emission that affects the planet, and household wastage also contributes to all of this. And there is a link. We shouldn't throw food away. We shouldn't waste food, and that's what we're also doing at the food bank to ensure that we are carrying on the campaign of reducing food wastage and ensuring that we take what we can consume in and we do this with enough form of modesty, basically.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Because even according to the World Food Program, they say that by reducing food waste, we actually can reduce the amount of global emissions by 8 to 10%. And one very interesting data they released that really blew my mind. They said the world currently has enough food to feed everybody, but we have about 811 million people who go to bed hungry, despite the fact that we have enough food. And that's because people waste food. So this is a call out to everybody. Please, if you have food, enough food for yourself, do not waste it for a lot of reasons. I mean, I always give the example of whenever you're coming to the island from the mainland and you smell the stench and the filthy air at Ojota. That is just, even if your glass is really airtight, whatever it is, that smell comes into your car because of a lot of things that happen there. So please save the planet and do not waste food, and also consider somebody who is in need. Now, coming back to you, Udeme, we do have food insecurity issue. And now let's define food security, because according to the definition, it is said that food security is when all people at all times have economic, social, and please just help me with that definition again.
Okay. It's when everybody has food at all times, not just within a period of time, but for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So if I have food between now and the end of the year, that's not food security. I should be sure that in the next 5, 6, 10 years, myself, my entire household, because it starts from the household, and then the community. Okay, start from individuals, then the household, and then the community, and then the point becomes a public health issue. Do you get?
Yeah.
So at that particular time, it has to be taken care of from the household.
And not just that, there's also the very important element, which is it has to meet my nutritional needs, because that's very important, because many people just eat something to survive. And that does not portray food security to me. But now the light is on the fact that currently, looking at our economic situation, the purchasing power is low. People are not very concerned about the health part. People are just trying to survive. They just want to put in something. And that's why you see a lot of people consuming carbohydrates, as a clinical nutritionist, what's your take on this?
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much. But there's one thing I always say, because over time, with our experience in the clinical settings, mothers, children, one thing I always say is we can look inwards. What do I mean by that? Okay, most time when you see people who are privileged to plan a building or to plan their housing or to plan estates, what's the room for farming in your backyard? People would choose to put a swimming pool over having a mini farm.
Wow.
Let's start with that. We look inward. Everybody wants. I'm not saying swimming pool is not cool. Of course, water is therapeutic. We have a couple of advantages of having nice water. Who doesn't like swimming pool? Who doesn't like to be in the shower for like 3 hours? But most importantly, let's look at our backyard. Look at the way our grandparents were. How they took. It's not like in their own time they didn't have some lack or some scarcity. They did, but they looked inward. They didn't have too many options. So they were able to plant food, plant fruits. Wherever I go to, my parents stay a bit far away from me, but at the backyard, they have a farm. Wherever I go there, I will see Saint Leaf, I will see ugu, I will see corn. I will just be able to pick, not like going to put something very important or something very cozy there. But maybe they just felt that it was necessary to have that. So we can start with the very minimal things right now. Okay, for instance, now, how much is tomatoes? How much is a sachet of tomatoes? Let's start with that. I can say now that, okay, may not be all parts of Nigeria, but there are some parts that you can have access to tomatoes of about 200 naira that can actually feed a family of 4. Yes, a family of 4. We can choose to have like panla, for instance, maybe panla 100, 120, 150 can be put into that stew, and then every other thing, maybe a cup of rice or something. Despite how it is now, I'm still of a strong opinion that if you look around, okay, look at the palm oil rice, for instance. Now we have most people will cook without vegetables. You have people cooking yam porridge without vegetables. We have people cooking rice and palm oil rice without vegetables. So I think it's just the choice and the combination of food, most importantly, that really, really affect us.
I didn't catch the last part of what you said. It's just what?
Okay. I said it's not just about the food we have, it's the combinations of the foods that we have on our plates. It's the combinations. We consciously don't incorporate. I've been to school environments where there are no fruits. And well, because Nigerians are people that can be a bit like, may not put our minds to fruit, but if we find it around us, I think I can still get an apple of like 100 naira now. I can still buy orange of 50 naira now. I can still buy watermelon 150 naira now. So these things, in as much as we're not getting enough of what we actually need, but they are still available at affordable prices. So let's start from there. Let's look within, let's plan. Let's plan within what we have, and then we'll still be able to have optimal nutrition, even with the little we have in our pockets.
All right, then. By the way, if you want to join this conversation, the number to dial is 01-448-9981. And your WhatsApp messages go to 0809-444-0981. We are streaming live on YouTube, so you can check us out there and, of course, see the faces of the speakers, the people who I am talking to. And I will definitely save the stream for you so that you can listen to it if you have missed out on some of the part of this conversation. What's your own take on this? What do you think the solutions, the short-term solution and let's start with the short-term solution is to the current situation in terms of economic reality, and yet we want people to have optimal nutrition? Michael?
Okay, good. So for me, I totally align and agree with Udeme on, the aspect of combination, combining, and that the fact that, of course, what we have is sufficient. We can go local. We still have some food that are very high in nutrition, that has a very high nutrition, but at a very affordable rate. Provided that we are able to plan and schedule our kind of and be deliberate about what we eat, basically. So I don't know if I got the question correctly.
Yeah. So I was asking what you think the short-term solution, especially now. I think both of you are focusing on the individual now because that's where the primary responsibility is. So the person who can't really buy as much as they used to. What I hear in what both of you are saying is intentionality. You have to be deliberate about your diet and plan correctly. But then now let's look at the bigger picture. How can we deal with these things? Because for instance, we have a state like Benue now. Benue is a food basket of the nation. We used to have a lot of food produce come from the north. They're no longer coming to the southern part of Nigeria like they used to. And because of that, prices of food product have soared. So what a person would ordinarily get before, you can't get that quantity anymore because of the insecurity. I mean, insecurity now, not even food security. So because of that, we do have a lot of problems. I mean, according to data that was released, we have about 1.8 million internally displaced persons in Benue, in other states. And these are some of the people that we rely on for them to transport food to us. And let's not even get started on the other preservation and processing. So what do you think can be done?
In terms of the long-term solution or short-term, long-term or short-term?
Both. You've talked about short-term for the individual. Yeah.
Okay, so long term, of course, our farmers, you've mentioned that should be brought back to their farms, where, in fact, looking at the entire population, how many farmers do we have? And those little number of farmers that I think about maybe about 24,000 or 24, I'm not sure if I got the distance correctly, feeding more than 200 million population. And then the same little number of farmers are now being threatened, their lives are being threatened and being taken. Yeah. So security is very key. Security is key. And then, of course, some, policies that could really affect or reduce food waste, I'm still very much coming back to this. Food wastage, food harvest loss is still very essential to ensuring food security. And then we're also looking at maybe some, do we have agricultural areas where people can move their food items freely, from one zone to the other? Those are very critical issues as well. And then prices of food are going up. What are the government doing about it? Do we still have commodity board where prices are being regulated? Not
do they even know the prices?
People. I think that there was a time Buhari said that no, the cost of hiking food prices are because of middlemen. Can't we sit down with these middlemen, and understand what exactly is going on? Are they the ones hiking the prices? What purchasing power and hiking food prices? There are a lot of factors surrounding them. We still have a whole long way to go. The entire arable land of this country, I think about just 2% is being cultivated. That's another big issue. We have a lot of land mass. And then what we still need to promote this whole farming thing. And I was listening to the TV one day, just recently, about 2 weeks ago, and the governor of Rivers State was saying that agriculture is on paper. A governor of his state, that is a big indictment. On to say that our entire agriculture is on paper and we are facing food security and so on, is saying that agriculture is on paper is absurd. So for me, a whole lot needs to be done, and I'm not saying that the government has the entire responsibility to, solve this problem. We all have to come together to ensure that, assist in the way we can. However, there are big elephants in the room that needs to be addressed on how we can short term, long term address the problem of food insecurity, basically.
Yeah, those big elephants, actually, they are there, they are big, and they need to be. I don't know. It's saddening. And well, in commemoration of the World Food Day, I think yesterday or 2 days back, it was said that the president approved 600 billion naira loan for 2.4 million farmers. But the truth is the agriculture sector in Nigeria is chronically underfunded. We do not have programs that are very encouraging. We even have continuity issue. I mean, one administration comes into place, they come up with their own project. And then, project, and another, there is no continuity. We have a lot of issues. And we can go on and on about this. It is like a gloomy situation. But away from that, that's what we were having this conversation. What will be your call to action for the individual, for the government, for anybody who's listening? what would you make your call to action? What would you say? Today being World Food Day, the whole world can hear you now. Yeah, you, Michael.
Oh, okay.
No, I'll come to you. Yeah.
Okay, for me, for anyone listening, first we have this personal responsibility to address the problem. First reduce the amount of food wastage that you're part of. Secondly, could just take action, be part of the process. The government alone can't solve the problem. It's a collective responsibility. Take your own steps in your own little way. Make sure your neighbor isn't going to bed hungry. Know your neighbors and know how you can be of help. And it's a collective responsibility essentially. So we'll have a part to play, and I believe we are up to the task.
Okay, that sounds nice enough. All right, what about you, Udeme? What will be the call to action in terms of the individual, especially how to achieve good nutrition in spite of the economic reality?
Okay, let me start by really, really doing the advocate of exclusive breastfeeding. Okay, imagine I didn't have to buy Nan one, or I didn't have to buy
no brand names
in fact, in the first 6 months of life. I wouldn't have saved some money to take care of the baby after 6 months. So let's even start with that. We understand the challenges that evolve around it, but like I would always say, determination is key. If as a pregnant woman, I determine that in the next 6 months, no matter what it takes, all physiologically things being okay, like if my body is okay, my mental health is okay, my health is in a good status, why am I not breastfeeding? So if I breastfeed in 6 months, because you find out that women don't breastfeed, and a child of 3 months is exposed to a sachet of milk for an adult. Mind you, in the first 6 months of life, the body has been wired to absorb and digest only breast milk. So exposing a child to cow milk as early as 3-4 months, number one, that child is not absorbing any nutrient from that milk.
Wow.
Number two, you're exposing that child to allergies in future. Number three, the fats available in that cow milk, the body doesn't have the ability to digest such. So let's start with that. And we can't even start talking about the preventive measures we are taking into place for that child while breastfeeding, because 78% of our health system is exposed to taking care of cardiovascular diseases that most likely have been prevented during this season of life. We talk about hypertension, overweight, obesity. You see our children now under 7, 9 already treating arthritis, obesity, liver problem due to exposure of these things at an early stage. So let's start with that. So the two major causes of these things are usually inadequate dietary intake and infection. And breast milk helps you fight against infection. So my own call to action is I want everyone to take responsibility. The moment you find out you are pregnant, you're responsible for your child and for yourself. So everything that is expected of you, maybe at the antenatal care system, even as a mother, your own health too is important, because even the iron stores you have is what your child will use for the first 6 months of life. So your child doesn't have any iron stores. So imagine you are deficient in iron stores. Imagine what will happen to your child. So it's about, for me, number one is taking responsibility. Don't be negligent towards what your medical personnel tell you to do, from the nurses to the doctors to the dietitians. Take them seriously, and then all through, even when your child is getting okay, then of course your immunization programs, your growth monitoring programs. So let's start from there. That's our short term, because when we do these things, we're going to prevent morbidity, which is other diseases coming into both mother and the child. We're going to reduce death. Imagine having 5.9 million children that are under 5 die every year. And 45% are linked to malnutrition. Imagine if those children were alive and how they would have advanced the productivity of their economy by being productive adults. So let's take responsibility, because that's the way, because I've seen the amount of negligence that happens, especially during pregnancy. Most of the problems that we have could have been prevented during pregnancy. So many. I've seen too many. That's why I said that we are talking. Too many that could have been prevented so many congenital problems that mothers just didn't care about. No, would I say they didn't care or they didn't know? It's a two-way. Some that even knew didn't really take it seriously. Then some that we assume that they didn't have enough. So let's ask our environment to involve more nutritionists, more dietitians into the healthcare systems. You go around Lagos State, you have primary health centers with no nutritionists. Who is advising them? What are they doing? We don't have the enough technical know-how, the knowledge know-how in our healthcare system, because most of them also confess that I didn't know. Nobody told me this. Nobody told me that. So if they have the knowledge, if they have the support, the knowledge, I believe that it will start from there.
Okay.
So malnutrition can actually be tackled at the early stage, and then from there.
Very, very key words. Thank you so much for the light both of you have shown on this very important topic. I really do appreciate it. I hope that we get to have another part of this conversation maybe later in the future, because we should have it, and also drum it into the ears of people continuously so that they change. The healthcare system in Nigeria is very interesting, and you do not want to be at the mercy of it. So preventive healthcare is very key. And if you have not taken anything out of the conversation this morning, number one, be deliberate about your health. Number two, get a garden instead of a swimming pool. I'm kidding. No, get a garden. And, and number three, you also should not waste food. That is very important. So Michael, if people want to follow you across what you do, they want to keep up with what you do with Lagos Food Bank and the other initiatives, how can they do that? Okay,
thank you. Of course, at Lagos Food Bank on Instagram, on Twitter, put Lagos Food Bank on Google. You have all the links are there for you to follow. LinkedIn, we are on all the social media platforms. Just type Lagos Food Bank, it pops up. We'll be glad to have you.
Thank you so much. And what about you, Udeme?
Oh, okay. On Instagram, I Meet the Food Doctor, where we share tips on what I don't know, how can I do it better? What information can I get about different kinds of food and how they relate to different disease conditions, and all.
Thank you so much. I really do enjoy this conversation. It's been delicious and tasty. And yes, I'll save it up on YouTube in case you have missed it, and you can share it with your friends or maybe somebody who has no idea about some of the things that we've discussed. It is very important. We start with the education because it is the first step in addressing a lot of the issues we are dealing with. Thank you, Lagos, Nigeria, and the rest of the world. We will continue in 8:40, or rather 8:40 is a time for the kids. And it's going to be a very interesting one. So gather your kids, your children, your nephews, your nieces, and all of them, and let them come have fun and just test your brain. This is Breakfast in Bed here on Smooth 98.1. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a lovely one. I really enjoyed it. It was lovely.
Thank you.
So I will share when I'm done with my show at 10. I'll share the link with you. On, via mail.
Both the audio and the YouTube link.
Just YouTube link.
Okay, perfect. It's fine. It's fine then. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye. 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 Bye.